Okay, so this one is going to be about. I guess it's another character creation one. It's mostly going to be about, like, when you're working with a character concept, something that sounds really cool to play. I don't know if you've ever been there. Faceless viewer. All three of you. I don't know if you've ever been there. Like, you've got some character concept, it feels really cool, like it's really exciting, and then you get on the table, you start playing it, and then halfway through the session you're like, shit, I ran out of things to do with this character already, because there's like nothing to them. Like the story, or even if there is a lot to the character, there's nowhere to go with them. Like, there's no real development you can do. There's nothing that the character can really learn. At least, nothing like specifically pre-built into the character. Like, the events of the story are going to happen, and that's going to shape a character. But certain character concepts just don't work all that well. At least if you're trying to make a character for a longer term type of game. If you're going to play this character for, quote, the whole campaign, however long that is. Whereas, certain other concepts, as long as you have a specific goal in mind, can make a lot more sense. I'm going to talk about our 40K game more specifically because I think there's a lot that kind of, what do you call it? Can kind of touch on this. I was talking to the DM of our Monday night game, who is a fellow player in our 40K game. And we were just talking about 40K. We were talking about different chapters and what characters we might want to make as backups for the game, and like what chapters are kind of more interesting to us. And he's been looking into and really digging the Mantis Warriors lately. We don't know why. At first it was like, funny bug people. And then I was like, oh shit, there's lore. Which is like everything in 40K. It's like, for me, it was like, funny shark people. Oh no. So, talking about the different stuff and how ways a Mantis Warrior might be interesting. Especially if this is post-Badab War, then a Mantis Warrior in the Death Watch on the same team as a Carcharodon can cause some really interesting tension, because these were two chapters that were at war years ago. Ragnil took part in the Badab War himself. He was a younger Marine at the time, but that was one of his first major conflicts. The major thing he participated in before that was the Genestealer conflict on Piety. Genestealer conflict on Piety 5 when he was just a scout Marine. But to sum up, the Badab War, Mantis Warriors were on the wrong side of it. Carcharodons were on the side that won. And the Mantis Warriors were reduced to a smaller contingent and were forced to go on a penitent crusade to, just like them and the Lamenters both did this. Penitent crusade, prove yourself loyal, and you can be reinstated. Now also the Carcharodons own the Mantis Warriors' former homeworld, so that's a point of contention. And the Carcharodons don't even do anything with it. They're just like, yeah, that homeworld is ours. We go there every once in a while to take a shit. But that can be a really interesting point of contention, and that's inter-party dynamics or inter-character dynamics is always, damn, that car's fucked up. That's something really interesting, something I really like to consider as much as I can. But there was another angle that the Mantis Warriors have. Their main gene flaw is they have the ability to, like, put them, when they're in a certain state of mind, they can activate this kind of like hyper aware state where the reaction time increases. I don't know if I want to say exponentially, but it increases by like several orders of magnitude. They become ridiculously focused. But there's two issues with it. One, that when they enter into this hyper state of awareness, their reaction time increases. That's like most of what it does. They essentially become unable to perceive anything that isn't like an active threat or something they're trying to fight. Like, it's only loosely described, but you know, I'm kind of understanding it as like they're only able to think in terms of predator and prey. Everything else is an object. If something isn't like a threat to them, it doesn't exist. How they determine what a threat is, I don't know. That's not really stated. So maybe if something is just dangerous enough, like, you know, a civilian, not a threat, so they don't perceive them. A guardsman with, you know, a lasgun and a flak armor, maybe they're enough of a threat to perceive. Maybe not. I don't know. But like, you know, a dozen guardsmen with las guns all aimed at you, would that count? I don't know. So that's the first flaw with this state. And the second flaw is they can never turn it off. This is just how they are now. So a lot of the Mantis warriors that enter into this heightened state, they kind of form their own squads and companies within the chapter. So, you know, but how do they function once they're in that heightened state? Like, do they have like a squad leader that isn't in that state, that coordinates their actions, and because it's a fellow Space Marine, they're a big enough threat that they can perceive them and talk to them? Like, is that how that works? It's not really stated. So there's like kind of two and a half major routes I see for that type of character. One, either the Mantis warrior is not in that heightened state, and they always have the option of pulling that trigger. But when they pull that trigger, when this mission is over, that character is no longer playable, because they're just a robot that can't function normally. Or they always have the option of pulling the trigger, but after they do, they gain some bonus. You know, advantage on deck saves, improved AC, just anything that regarding reaction time, advantage on initiative checks, that type of thing. But they get disadvantage on a bunch of other shit. Like, you know, they can't even make insight checks or perception checks to see certain things. Like, they'll never be able to see specific kind, you know, unthreatening individuals, like that type of thing. So one of those two options, or kind of massage it in more loosely and have it be, you know, that heightened state of awareness is just whatever class resource you use. Maybe it's Action Surge, maybe it's Barbarian Rage, maybe it's the Courser Target Lock. You know, any number of things. It seems to, like I was talking to that other player, it seems to match up relatively well with Target Lock. So that's probably what that player would make that character. But, you know, you could just do something like that so they can kind of dip in and out of it. Maybe they're in the state now, but they can kind of calm it momentarily, not take themselves fully out of it, but like calm it enough so that when they're not like in active combat, like not that they can still perceive civilians, but it's fuzzy. It's like they're in a fog, and the only thing they can see clearly are enemies. Something that's a big enough target. So that's a character that, like, okay, can this character go anywhere? And that's purely just, a single quirk that can put a stop to the character being playable at all. And especially because once you're in that, you have that quirk active, you're no longer able to interact with the large majority of NPCs. So what do you do? How do you play that character? Another one we were kind of talking about is like a theoretical all Tyranid one-shot where we're all playing some variation of Lictor or like Lictor power level creature, like, to put it in the same terms that Space Marine 2 uses. Like, we're all playing extremists. Like, one of us is a Lictor, one of us is a Biovore, one of us is a Ravener, one of us is a Zoanthrope. That could be super cool. And there's ways you can map that onto like kind of what we're currently playing. Like, the Zoanthrope would be a Psyker. The Lictor would probably be a Courser. Maybe a Renegade Rogue type. A Ravener would, I don't know, I guess be a fighter. Maybe a Biovore would also be a fighter, or maybe a Barbarian. I don't know. Maybe make some custom subclasses for those types of things. Because the Biovore can kind of like entrench itself and bring up armor, but then it can't move anymore. So, I mean, that's like, I was thinking about making that type of fighter or soldier or barbarian subclass. Oh yeah, it calls it the reskin calls it the Berserker. But anyway, so with that, what do you do with that type of game? Like, would it be a more pure, just playing the game type of thing? Or would this end up be, like, how do you role play a bunch of Tyranids? Like, that you're all part of the same hive mind? Or do you have to, in a case like that, do you have to come up with I'm going to call it a contrivance, a story reason, a narrative device. Like, okay, the hive mind is doing something experimental where it's going to potentially sacrifice some biomass, some Tyranid bioforms, and it's going to send them out as a kill team to some remote location to accomplish some objective. And in doing so, it's going to network them together. They have their own synapse connection with each other, but they all have the increased autonomy that Lictors usually enjoy when they when Lictors are set down onto a planet to do some assassinations. Lictors get that increased autonomy. They have some semblance of sentience and sapience. They can make decisions for themselves because Lictors are cut off from the hive mind. So maybe you have a squad of bioforms that all have the same kind of thing. I'm gonna check this video to make sure that AC blowing on it didn't completely ruin this whole video. Same thing with this bumpy ass road. So, something like that. But without that, how do you play a Tyranid? Like, they don't have a culture. Do they make jokes? Do they make observations and make statements and discern things about the world around them? I don't know. I guess we would have to figure that out. Because, unless we were playing one or two games, maybe 3 or 4, if we're not able to do that, would it even be interesting? Would it even be fun? Because those characters aren't going anywhere. They're not characters. Yeah. I think there was another one. Okay, here's one. A character that has like a specific goal in mind. Playing like an Alpha Legion. And there's two ways I can think of to play an Alpha Legion. One, you're an Alpha Legion and you're literally there to sabotage the rest of the party in a way that will, I don't know, maybe you're playing like that. Are they actually loyalist? Are they heretic? Are they what the fuck are they? You know, plan secrets within secrets within plans within plans. So you're just there to do sabotage and keep the other players guessing. And then, like, you know, you're a recurring NPC. Knox, if you're watching this right now, feel free to put an Alpha Legion NPC in the game that sometimes helps us and sometimes fucks us over. That would be funny. But the other way I can think of to play an Alpha Legion is this Alpha Legion is so deep undercover. He doesn't even know he's Alpha Legion anymore. He doesn't know. He has no fucking idea. He doesn't know what he's doing anymore, but he has orders from someone that he knows he has to carry out. That's it. That would also be really funny. But those are the only ways I can think of to play Alpha Legion. But the former, you know, sabotage something and then the character's no longer playable, I guess that's a way to play him. But okay, so I guess this was less about narrative dead end characters and more about characters that might achieve their narrative arc way sooner than the campaign ends. But, you know, another example is like, I think I discussed it before, like a character whose whole motivation is to go save their dad. And in the 7th session, you save the dad. You save that character's dad. And there's no reason for that character to continue adventuring. So he goes home. And that player makes a new character. That's an example. I've used that before in one of these videos a while ago. But, you know, that's it. That's all I got for you today.